Why are fights looked down upon? If a story like DBZ has back-to-back fights, it's a simple story for meatheads. If a story like Haikyuu has back-to-back matches, it kinda gets a pass due to double standards. But in general, battle and sports manga are viewed as less complex in the plot department. Fights in sports matches are hard to write, but writing a good fight or match isn't seen as good plot writing. In this video, I'll try to explain why. There are two other anime genres that are good comparisons, the schemer and the helper genres. For schemer, think Death Note and Promised Neverland. For helper, think monogatari and rascal. The reason I chose these genres is because, similar to the battle and sports genres, they have repeatable formulas for plot cycles or fights. Battle manga have fights, sports have matches, schemers have battles of wits, helpers have help arcs. Let's begin. First, fights kinda happen in a bubble. Sports matches too. Cycles in the schemer and helper genres don't. If I show you a fight from DBZ or One Piece, or a match from Haikyuu or Kuroko with no context, it'd be very easy to pick up on what's happening. You don't need context for a punch or a ki blast. It's a consistent moveset that the characters have. Once you see it, you can know it's part of their bag. Now if I show you a battle from Death Note, there's a chance that you could be fast enough to pick up on what's happening due to all the inner monologues, but it's not a guarantee. The reason is because the way these characters attack is based on not just the fight lore, but the lore of the entire story. You need a lot of previous information from the plot. The attacks are plot determined. The most common type of attack in a schemer is a lie. The most common attack in a battle is a punch. Every lie in a schemer is tailor-made for their opponent. Meanwhile, it is impossible to make every punch from a fighter tailor-made. In fact, most punches aren't. This bubbled nature also means that I can add in a fight to an arc very easily without changing the plot much. The same can't be said for schemers. And if it's so easy to add in a fight to the plot, then it means that it doesn't affect the plot that much. Going back to attacks, because the form of the attacks are determined by the previous plot and are tailor-made for each opponent, there is far more variance in the cycles of non-action genres than the cycles of action genres. Light May uses lies in every fight, but the content of his lies to Rei, Misora, and L are all different due to what's happened so far in the plot and who he's lying to. He can't just repeat the same lies. Sakura gives advice to girls in his life, but the advice he gives is all tailor-made. In action stories, the closest comparison is how counters may be determined by the abilities of the opponent. That makes a lot of the tactics used tailor-made for specific fights, but it's not as atomic as every single lie being different, and it isn't determined by the plot, it's determined by the powers and skill sets. In battle and sports, the only lore you need to know is who has what abilities. It's more formulaic. Lies and advice are tailor-made. Punches, spikes, and shots are not. That's why it's easy to write a tournament of back-to-back fights or matches. That's why it's easy to write in extra fights. You can't really do tournaments for the non-action genres. In short, the cycles in the action genre don't use previous information in the plot as much as non-action genres do, thus making them simpler and easier to write from a broad perspective. In action genres, the plot pauses for a fight. In other genres, the fights are plot and their attacks are plot determined. Furthermore, the range of attacks that are available in non-action cycles are much wider than in action cycles. One of L's attacks is inviting L onto the task force to keep an eye on him. One of L's battles is based on testing Light's deductive reasoning with photos. One of my favorite cycles is when the second Kira takes over the TV station and the task force responds. My favorite from the second half is when Light uses the reporter to secretly contact Mikami. There are almost no limits to what a fight can look like and how attacks are executed. And then the attacks are also based on the unique battlefields. Goku can only attack with punches, kicks, and ki blasts for the most part, and all of his fights look similar. Helpers are in the same category as schemers. If it's an internal cycle, the logic and advice the hero gives will depend on the context which has endless possibilities. If the cycle is external, the problem will depend on the nature of the obstacle, context which has endless possibilities. Let's explore that more. Action cycles have the same goals and win conditions. Non-action cycles don't. In battle manga fights, the goal is to win by knocking out the opponent or killing them. In sports matches, the goal is to win by outscoring the opponent. There are limited ways to reach this goal, so the attacks are limited too. In a schemer cycle, there are so many goals available, which results in a wider range of attacks. Some goals for Light and Lelouch are simply to kill their opponent, but sometimes, their goal is just to avoid suspicion. Look at Light's battles with L and Lelouch countering Colin in the shower. Those are battles of wits. And look at L, his goal is to prove that Light is Kira through the law. So with just this info, goals in schemer battles can be to kill, avoid suspicion, or prove something. Different goals have different win conditions, which creates unique attacks. In a help cycle, the goal is often to help the girl overcome her problems. It is usually done by helping her go through a character arc so she can face the external obstacle. This is definitely more formulaic like fights and matches, but character development is baked into the formula. Also, the way each girl solves their external problem isn't as uniform as knocking out or outscoring an opponent. Rascal cycles are often resolved through a character admitting the feelings they were hiding. Monogatari is similar, but is joined by some supernatural process. Tomozaki Season 2's first cycle was resolved through social manipulation. Yamada cycles are resolved through the use of witch powers. To recap, The battle cycles have the goal of physically harming the opponent until they can't fight. Sports cycles have the goal of outscoring the opponent. Schemer and helpers can have significantly more goals, thus creating more attacks. In conclusion, these are the reasons I believe action cycles are looked down upon. From a perspective only looking at broad genreless storytelling, action cycles are significantly easier to write than other cycles, and I didn't even touch on genres like romance or mystery. I compared it to genres that have easy formulaic cycles, similar to action stories. Is there a way to get around this as a writer? Maybe with battle, but not with sports. The goal of harming the opponent can't be avoided, but extra goals and win conditions can be added. Maybe the hero has to defeat the villain while protecting civilians. The range of attacks can be played with by making fights happen in unique locations that limit or add to their range. Maybe the characters are fighting on a train, plane, underwater, or a forest. Make the location add to the possible attacks. There's no way around the formulaic design of fights. It's inherent. It's also impossible to make every attack tailor-made and plot determined. The best imitation of tailor-made I can think of is a main character who uses a new tailor-made weapon every single fight based on his opponent. Plot-determined attacks could technically be attacks based on the location, more so setting determined, but they're in that setting because of the plot. The new weapon and new location every fight would definitely increase the variance in cycles, similar to schemers and helpers. There is no fix for the amount of plot context needed for a fight. Having super complex magic systems doesn't count, because having context on powers isn't the same as having context on plot events. It's just the nature of fights to be simpler to understand. Is it necessary to write fights that aren't looked down upon? I don't think so. In real life, fights and battles of wits are completely different. They have their strengths and weaknesses, which are reflected in their respective genres. It doesn't make sense to force battles and sports matches to function the same way as schemes and help arcs. It can be done for fun, but it's not a necessity. This was just a mental exercise for me. I think battle manga are fine the way they are. I just wanted to understand why action cycles were seen as inferior since I finally understand that fights technically count as plot. Subscribe for more academic writing content.